I'm Kyrie Carpenter, and this video is not about how to do your makeup, the latest fashion trends, or the coolest apps for iPhones. Even though I'm a millennial, it is about ageism. Given the lack of intergenerational exchange, it might seem strange, but I am passionate about combating ageism and culture change. Doubt this will come as a shock to any of you, but did you know that America is anti-aging? Anti-aging, let's think about that. The last time I checked, from the day we're born until the day we die, we're all aging. So aging is synonymous with living. To be anti-aging is therefore to be anti-living. And yet, there's a multi-billion-dollar industry dedicated to being anti-aging. I've done a lot of research about aging in America and the anti-aging culture, and again I came up upon this belief that if we could stop the physical representations of aging, if we could stay physically fit, if we can continue to look a certain age, we could actually freeze the aging process. But is that actually something we want to do? So think about that, being anti-aging, anti-living. We really want to stop aging. Isn't that the very definition of death? The thing we're trying to avoid with all of this anti-aging nonsense anyways? Aging is something that happens to each of us every single day. So if you can create an industry to stop something that's inevitable, it's pretty profitable. So anti-aging makes sense to a marketing executive, but it doesn't make sense to us. I'm a therapist, and in my field we talk a lot about diversity. I would guess that most of you are familiar with some of the more buzzworthy diversity topics that are up currently in our culture. Gender, religion, race. Age is a diversity factor too. How do you know something's a diversity factor? Well, in a culture, there's a dominant and a non-dominant group. And the dominant group has the power. It's easy to think of what the dominant group is because when I tell you a certain group, you'll know, when I say gender issues, who do you think of? Women. Women are the non-dominant group in the diversity factor of gender. When I say ageism, who do you think of? Probably no one, because ageism has yet to come to the forefront of our cultural thinking. And age is a really tricky diversity factor because it changes over a lifetime. Some of the other diversity factors can change too, but very rarely. And age is the only one where if we make it to the end of our life, we'll have gone through the different phases of dominant and non-dominant. And age has two factors in our culture. Chronology of how old are you? Tell me the years. I can make assumptions of you based on those years. And a perceptual factor. How old do you look? In American culture, chronologically speaking, the power seems to lie in those in their 40s. Perceptibly speaking, it's more around 19. And don't take my word for it. Open any magazine, watch any TV show, and you will see that this is the ideal age for appearance. Now, last time I checked, there's not a single human on this planet who has a 19-year-old body with a 40-year-old consciousness. So that's where ageism comes into play. Not only is this a diversity factor with discrimination, but not a single human actually fits into the dominant group, making ageism rampant. Aging has become a shadow part of our culture. In the depth psychological tradition, the shadow is the part of us that we aren't fully conscious of. It's a part of our personality that lies in the, you guessed it, shadow. It's not necessarily a bad thing, just something that we're unconscious of or have yet to integrate. In the case of aging, it's something that we've pushed into the shadow. As a culture, we don't accept it, so we've hidden it away from view, as if doing that will make it not exist. This is easily evident in all of the places we have to put people with the problem of aging. 55+ communities, assisted living, residential care facilities, independent living, nursing homes, just to name a few of the permutations of these lovely shadow places. In the depth psychological tradition, there's a force or a character that comes into play when something in the shadow needs to be brought to the light. It's called the trickster. The trickster comes in and upsets the status quo, but this upset is a set up for personal growth. In American culture right now, dementia is playing the trickster for aging. It holds everything we fear most about aging. And so we're cloistering it away. down long fluorescent lit hallways. Behaviors get too loud and disruptive, we medicate them away. Suddenly when someone doesn't fit the stereotype of grandma knitting in the corner, bring out the antipsychotics, put on that chemical straitjacket. We can't have people of a certain age reminding us that they exist, that aging exists, that each of us are aging, right here, right now. I recognize I might be speaking to the proverbial choir here. Thankfully, awareness about ageism has been gaining traction recently. People are starting to recognize that there is rampant ageism in America and worldwide. The idea I want to offer here today is that the suffering associated with aging actually comes from this ageism, from rejecting aging. Yes, there is suffering in life. It's a natural fact of life. And yes, since part of life is aging, there's suffering associated with aging. But a lot of the fears that ageism places in us come from rejecting aging. So if rejecting aging is the problem, what's the solution? Accepting it? Maybe even embracing it? I took this idea and I did what I do. I read about it, I talked to people, I researched, and I started to notice these different facets, these different things that aging teaches us that American culture doesn't value. And I just began during my research to make a list of all of these different verses, fast-paced versus slower pace, doing versus being. The list grew and grew, and they started to fall into categories. And these categories birthed an acronym. And this acronym is what we're going to be talking about today. And I want to be clear before we get into it that this isn't about curing aging. I am definitely not anti-aging. This won't fix the problem. It's a reminder, a mnemonic to help us remember that aging is something to be embraced, that there are gifts that it offers, and that we can begin to cultivate them at any point in our life. The acronym I came up with was PLAY. So what do you think? Are you guys ready to play?